Hey guys, so this is just me checking in with section 2 of Beowulf, which is titled Beowulf. So just wanted to review a couple of things with you. So you should have read it by now. It's not a long section. It's about the same length as the Grendel section, but some of the other ones we're going to be reading are a little bit longer. So we are introduced finally to our main character, so it should kind of strike you as a little odd that we don't meet the main character until the second portion of the text. So we're kind of like delayed a little bit. We get the bad guy first, and then we get the good guy who comes in after. So some of the things that get mentioned in this section are kind of how Beowulf arrives in the Danish territory and talks to the Danish people, and including the king of the Danes at the time, which is Hrothgar. So he is actually taken to Heorot, the mead hall that all the action is going down in. And, he takes himself as well as 14 great warriors with him. And he himself is described as a great warrior. If you want to know if he's a great warrior, just ask him. He'll tell you. Because we do actually get dialogue in this first section, or the second section, excuse me. For the first time, we start to see characters interacting with one another. This kind of talks or mentions some of the ideals, would be a good place to start if you're thinking about the ideals of these characters, or these people at the time, that these characters represent. So some of the ideals that you may notice are, they really value men, maybe they really value warriors or strength in battle. They may really see a lot of positive values in living in really close-knit communities. There's a lot of different things you can say here, and it's important to kind of make those connections, because as we continue, it is going to show you what this society values and why they value that thing for whatever reason in the text. So just something to kind of keep an eye out for. Again, we do have dialogue. We have those first couple of interactions between characters. And the first person to speak is kind of a warrior that leads Beowulf to the king. Then Beowulf speaks, and then King Hrothgar speaks to Beowulf. So in Beowulf's section, essentially he does two primary things. The first thing that you'll notice is that Beowulf kind of does this whole list of great tasks that he has completed. Sorry guys, that was a mouthful. So he does list, all these monsters he's killed. He's essentially slain the entire population of giants and all these other great tasks that he's completed. And he does this for a couple of reasons. First, to, say, I'm that guy. I'm the dude. I'm the person you're looking for. But it's also proof that, he can probably handle Grendel and the situation that Hrothgar is faced with. So he doesn't really have to worry about Beowulf handling business, that Beowulf's going to, handle it. I think it also is important that we think about the fact that they're just doing this on word of mouth. So everyone is like, okay, well, you say you're going to do this, so we believe that you're going to do this. Like, someone's word or someone's promise meant a lot at this time, because it's not like they kept written records, and it was all about, connections that you made with people. They do live in a community setting, and this mead hall is a great example of that. Heorot, the mead hall, is a great example of that. Beowulf kind of finishes up his first speech with like this whole moment of glory kind of thing, where he's like, God will determine if I will live or die, and, you may only be able to find, my Grendel crunching on my bones, and he may eat me whole, and you'll see blood smeared on the walls, my blood, and all this kind of stuff. And he's very dramatic in this particular instance. But we see a lot of blood and gore in this particular section, lots of description, lots of imagery, several kennings at this point. And, of course, lots of boasting and bragging on Beowulf's abilities by none other than Beowulf, which is going to become a trend. I think you guys will start to notice it pretty quickly. And then finally we have the speech by Hrothgar, which has three primary parts. The first part kind of mentions Beowulf's dad and how he is described as not quite like Beowulf. So be looking out for that. So if you know what Beowulf is described as, think about what his father is being compared to in this particular part of the speech. In the very middle of the speech, they start talking about the problem in this text. So Beowulf is let in on what the problem is, which we're going to talk a little bit more about towards the end of the week. And finally, he kind of talks about giving this huge feast for Beowulf and saying, we're going to end this by, giving you a huge feast and making sure that you feel comfortable and celebrated as you go into battle with Grendel, potentially that night or the next day. They don't really tell us as of yet. But as of tomorrow, we are going to go ahead and start reading the battle with Grendel, which is going to be our first fight scene. Also, as well as the thing I have for you to do for section 2, I'm going to be posting this assignment very soon, potentially today, Tuesday, as soon as I get all the directions posted, make sure they're as clear as they can be. So I'm going to be posting a document that looks like this on the front and this on the back, which obviously this would be page 1, this would be page 2. On the front side, there are a list of 12 body parts. Out of those 12 body parts, I'm asking you to pick 8. Each of the body parts has corresponding questions that I want you to answer for both Beowulf and one of the villains in the text. There are 3, Grendel, Grendel's mother, and the dragon. I highly suggest picking either Grendel or Grendel's mother, but it is up to you. If you choose to do the dragon, that is up to you. You are going to get the most information on Grendel, so he may be the easiest to write about, but you're welcome to pick one of the other villains. It's completely up to you. Again, I want you to pick 8 of those body parts and answer those questions for 8 of those body parts for both Beowulf and one antagonist, so one of the villain characters. With each of those, you're going to need to find a piece of textual evidence that supports your answer. So, for example, if you pick nose, it says smell through the character's nose. What smells affect him or her and how. So this is going to be where you think about that imagery and what it's conveying to you. What sights may they see? What smells would be associated with those sights? And how would that affect the way the character acts or reacts? And then you'd find a piece of evidence to support that particular claim that you make. And again, this is all about comparing those characters, looking at how the protagonist and one of the antagonists are described and what makes them really, really different from each other. And especially in this text, they are completely different. They're described in completely different ways. As well as answering this, I am going to ask you to have some kind of visual representation that compares the two. You don't necessarily have to draw, even though this is kind of what this is expecting. You don't have to draw something, but if you're good at drawing, if that's something you enjoy doing, I'd be happy to see some drawings or some visual representation of some sort to go with each of your characters. If you have any questions, obviously let me know. This is going to be something that's ongoing, so throughout the time that we're reading this text, you will have to work on this activity, because with each section, you're going to get more information on the characters that you are going to be discussing. Particularly Beowulf, obviously, since he is the main character. He shows up in pretty much every section from section 2 forward. So keep in mind that his stuff is going to be really easy to find, whereas your antagonist stuff may be a little bit more difficult. Either way, you're responsible for both, so don't really pay attention to the directions that are posted on the actual document. Just focus on the directions I'm giving here, and of course they will be typed there in the Google Classroom assignment section. So let me know if there are any questions. As I said previously, this is just kind of a review for section 2, and I'll go ahead and post a review for section 3 as well by the end of the week. Again, let me know if there are any questions. I can't say that enough, because I feel like some of you are falling behind already, and you're not asking a lot of questions, so I'm a little concerned there. Alright, I guess that's it for now. See you guys.